Good evening, everybody, and welcome back to Sip and Sketch Round 2. My name is Brent Dodd. If you haven't joined us before, welcome. This is a very simple, low-stress drawing class. Now, that is possibly an oxymoron for the majority of you. We have been told somewhere along the line by a very poor art teacher in terms of their emotional quotient, not their ability to teach, but telling you that you are not good at art. I think art is something that we are creative in our problem-solving skills every day. So drawing shouldn't be any different. Everybody has the ability to see, and what I want to do is walk you through about 25 minutes of stick figures that will come together to create something that you may want to hide in the spare bathroom, or it will be something that will create amazingness. And if you get to the end and you think, oh my goodness, I had no idea I could do this, I'm an artist. It's not the case. It is just that you listened well, and you need to be back next week so that you can make more and you get better and better. Please excuse my very dry sense of humour. Also special tonight, and I'll try and repeat it as much as I can, is the hashtag lockdown relief, which is all about trying to get an awareness for the learners that are in distress in our school at the moment. In particular, I have a great privilege to work in Maritzburg College. It's a boys' school here in KwaZulu-Natal in South Africa, and we're looking to raise awareness for the stress and strain that they are going under during this very tricky period where parents aren't able to work and they need a little bit of help. So just check out the link below in the comment section, and you can follow that to watch a very inspirational video and make a difference. Then after this whole little drawing, I'm going to give you a little walk around the gallery, and anything that moves off the walls during this lockdown session, 10% goes across to that lockdown relief to make sure that kids are eating and go away. Alright, so our big thanks first of all to Brett Gray, who's been first to purchase today an artwork which is a commission piece, so 10% of any commissioned work will also go across to the hashtag lockdown relief process. And as I said, check out that link below a little bit later on, so that you can make amazingness and contribute to a really wicked cause. I think making a change in people's lives at this time in the whole game is really quite crucial. The thing that is going to help you make amazingness tonight is this thing called a Pilot Fine Liner. It is a water-based pen. You also get other types, the Pilot G2, and they have different size nibs. They're all water-based. I hope if you joined us last week, you would have gone out and scoured for some water-basting, because we will draw for about 20 minutes and then we'll turn it into a watercolor. I'm not going to tell you what we're going to draw, because what tends to happen is that if I tell you we are drawing a bicycle and you are drawing next to someone, you are going to look at theirs and say, oh, that looks much better than mine. That definitely looks more like a bicycle than mine does. That's not the case at all. We want to just draw and free you up and just have a little bit of fun, creating something that is different in this very special time. If you can hear us fine and you are ready to go, just put a face down in the comment section there. Or if you're absolutely having a terrible time, it's like Survivor, but you just evict yourself. You can just press leave, and but hopefully there are not too many of you that are going to be absolutely distraught. Blame it on me as being a poor teacher if you don't get it right. I'm going to move you a little bit closer to the artwork so that we can get going. We're a couple of minutes in there, and let's line you up so that you are really good to go there. And I'm going to walk you step by step through this little process, and hopefully we will be able to create some amazingness. Alright, so what I've done to start with, you should have an A4 piece of paper. If you are enthusiastic and will not get a gold star, you've got an A2 here. I've made mine into two A4s so that it looks like an A4 sideways. And we're just going to do step by step, using this little pen, get through to making some lines on the page. As I said, they're stick figures so that you can put them all together. We're about 2 minutes in. As I said, those of you who have not been here before, you will not regret it. This is very exciting times. Those of you that are left-handed, you are in your right minds, and that's a good start. Those of you that are not left-handed and you are right-handed, it's not the end of the world. But it's never too late to switch. Okay, so let us look at, first of all, you will have a point on the page. I'm just going to make a dot so that you can see where we are in relation to the rest of the page. The trick of creating an artwork, that's a little bit over to the left, but is that you see where things are compared to other things. That's the only thing you need to think about when drawing is, where is that compared to something else? Is it to the right? Is it to the left? It's been fascinating in some drawing scenarios in the past where I'm in class and we start doing one of these drawings and I put a line here, and there'll be some young lad who's got a beautiful imagination. He'll be drawing a line vertically up at the bottom left-hand side here. So you want to try and depict as much as possible close to what we are drawing here, so that you can get a sense of progress and delight. Okay, so don't forget to tell us where you're from as well. It'll be quite exciting to see how far and wide we are stretching things. First and foremost, I am going to apologize to Vicky from England. I am doing a line going horizontally here. If I were to say, it's about a third of the way up the page on the right hand side, and it is going across into the center of the page. Alright, so you'll see the middle of the page is about there. It's a little bit down from the middle of the page, and from the right hand side, let's say that's the middle, about a third, and about a third. So in between halfway and a third, we're going to just do a little line. And the trick with these drawings is that the more you scribble, the better it actually looks in the end. You can see fewer and fewer of your mistakes. They're not actually mistakes, they're just excitement. Right, on the other side, what we'll do is, as we start going across the other side, we'll just do a gentle curve up to exit the page. Alright, so there we go. If you're just joining us, all you need is a little white piece of paper, powdered fine liner pen, or just your pen, or a pencil, or a brush, or your fingers and some paint, and you'll be able to make some amazingness. There was some comments about possibly doing it in charcoal, and that is something that you can do, but your brown must be finished already, and you can take something out to fire, and you should be able to continue with it. Alright, so from this now, we'll see if we're in the middle of the page here, what we're going to do is just off to the left here, we're going to take another line, and it is going to do a little bit of a curve up to go just past halfway there. Alright, so it's going to do a gentle curve up to just past halfway. By the time it gets to the right hand side, it should be flattening off. Alright. And if it looks sort of similar, that's absolutely perfect. It doesn't have to be exactly the same, it just needs to be sort of similar. Okay. Right, now on this side here, we're going to get into the nuts and bolts quite quickly. We're going to do, if you can see it, we're going to draw a little scribble vertically. Alright? It's not going to touch the top line that you just give yourself a little bit of a finger's width between the bottom and the top there. We're just going to scribble up and down. Alright? And then next to it as well, we're going to scribble on the left hand side of it, up and down. Nice and simple. Alright? This is called a sip and sketch because we've been hosted by a wide range of folk, most in particular Fern Hill, in the Fern Hill Hotel in Howick, and they've got a spectacular menu which is a takeout. So at any stage of the game you should have, if you did order from them today, make a little note in the comment section, otherwise you'll go tomorrow. Best food in town. And what we're going to do is flick outwards from that. So you're starting up the top, not from Fern Hill, from the tree here. We're going to go flick outwards. Alright. Here we go. We're just going to flick. And the way that we're flicking is that there are tiny little flicks upwards from the center, and then they are subject to gravity. So you're moving your wrist sideways, and what it does is it just turns the flick sideways, and you get it to come out. But as I said, you just want to really give it a little bit of a scribble. Alright, and then you get that to be a sort of nice tree of sorts. And then again at the top on the other side here, again we're going to be doing the same thing. We're going to scribble outwards. And then we do it again on the other side here. Alright? Doing it on the outside there. Now you'll see that I'm scribbling, literally one is quite darkly scribbled there. This one also, your scribbles, the more of a weird scribble it is, the better. Alright? Sometimes it's nice that they can't recognize who you are. And you can always bail, but the idea is that we want to just scribble. And I'm going to give you another example of that. I've got a marker who said earlier today, he felt like his drawing was a whirlpool of disaster. It's just going down the plug hole. Mark, I know you're watching, and don't panic. I think this is good. You must just keep scribbling, and maybe the whirlpool will create something. So I say scribble here, in that you're going to scribble in the direction that the object grows. Because if we think about it, we did that little task the other day. You can create that circle, which is, this is off the artwork. You've got the center of the circle. Let's pretend you're looking at a tree from the top. It's got its branches that go outwards, right? Nice and simple. So if we have the tree from the bottom, the stem goes up and its branches go outwards. But as they come towards you, they're obviously a little bit shorter. So you are getting all the different lengths. Now, looking at the work of the cubist, they're looking for the like of Picasso and Braque. They're wanting to create the simplest possible language to create something. That looks like a horrendous scribble, but it's actually really quite simple. You're wanting to get your most horrendous scribble in there. Little marks close to the stem and flicking them outwards. And you should be fine. If you keep doing that, you will find that it'll be darker towards the center and light on the outside. Alright, so you're wanting to get that sort of... Now, we've probably dwelled on that a little bit too long and you've obliterated the page, but that's fine. Let's look into the background now. We've got this lovely hill, and what we're going to do is we're going to put the outline of some cauliflower shapes on the top here. Alright, maybe select there, like last week, a couple of family members. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 here. And those are just the outlines of, and just draw them very lightly. Alright, you want to just tickle the surface with that. If you've drawn them darker, that's also not a problem. Alright, we're just squiggling on the outsides of those. Let's leave those for now, but you've got a general idea of what that is. That's good. Alright, so if you have just joined us a little bit behind schedule, I think you must maybe get a watch, because it is now 11 past 6, and you need to be at 6. It sounds a bit of a teacher talk there. They come late. Maybe it's like royalty. So welcome, royalty. The idea is that what we started with was about just above a third of the way, just below halfway. We drew a line that curved upwards, and then we drew another one in there, and then we scribbled and rescribbled, and now we just drew some cauliflowers in the background. What you'll notice is that these two are close together. That one's a bit further apart, and further apart. So there's a sense of randomness about it. Now, if you want to look at the way you did yours, you can see if my brain is definitely left brain and ordered, because I would have put mine equally apart, or if you are more right brain and just like, yeah, this one wants to talk to that one, and then this one's not really a part of the conversation, that one's being a real pain in the ass, and that one really never ever was part of the conversation. So you get that sense of conversation happening in everything that you're doing. It may be quite foreign, it may just be an artist thing, but the artwork should be speaking to you by now. Okay, what we're going to do now is try and create a sense of foreground. Every successful artwork should have a background and then into a foreground. Let's create some amazingness right now by coming around the corner here, and what we're going to do is we're going to wiggle, and then as we come further forward into the front here, we're going to curve off the left. Right, can you see how we just did that wiggle there? Let's say it was a Z, little Z's, little S's coming further forward. But the whole time, if you were to just think of it as one line, it's a curve out this way, curve out that way. Alright, so your curves are quite close together, your zigzags are close together at the top, and as they come out they get a little bit wider. Alright, so we have a line going out the back there. Okay, then on the other side here we have a line coming down, alright, and it does exactly the same. This time it's an S, a little S, as it comes towards you, comes out, branches all the way back in, comes back down, and then goes out off on the right hand side of the page. Okay, so what we've got is it came out in the same direction to start with, Z back, came out in the same direction, Z back, and then it sort of wiggled itself away until it eventually came off the page here. Alright, so we get those two to develop themselves. And if you're thinking, oh my goodness, I couldn't keep up with how many zigzags there were there, literally you just wanted to create a zigzag, but your zigzags in the distance must be tighter and closer together, so like a taut spring. As you come further forward, your spring comes out because we are seeing more of it over distance. It creates a lovely sense of depth if you wobble things away there. Alright, so I hope we also, if we have the Murray family from the North Coast, we're threatening to join us this evening, give us the thumbs up. You have got two amazing sons that attend school at Maritzburg College, Rowan and Kristen. I have the great privilege of being able to teach both of them, funny enough, and two amazing artists. So I'm very much looking forward to seeing the artwork of the parents, which you can post at the end of this in the comment section below. If you have just made your two sons do this drawing without you, shame on you. But sometimes it is okay to be a bit scared, but that's not the case. Alright, and what we're going to do at the top here, we had this little line above that one there, so it creates a little bit of a background there, and then now we're going to wobble all the way along the background here, just a little wobble line on the top there like little clouds. They are not clouds, it is just a little wobbly line going up, wobbles back down, touches the ground, line, up and wobbles. Very random, very, very random, just squiggling and wobbling along. Should keep it nice and simple at the back there. Okay, so the theory is that we're trying to just create and fill up the space nice and simply, and that should allow us to get a sense of shapes on the page. Like I said, like the cubists, they want to unpack it just to get flat areas of shapes. In this is going to be a ribbon. It goes around the corner here, drops into the valley. Let's create a little bit of a mountainside at the back there. So horizontally, just above halfway, maybe a finger. As you come across, you want to be higher than your highest point on the right hand side. Okay, and this, you're actually quite lucky to be able to do this today, because round about now, as we pass the halfway mark, we tend to have a little walk around, and it is like Survivor, you get evicted. It's quite shameful actually. That you pay to attend a function and you get asked to leave. Well, you just get asked to stop participating because you're really rubbish. But that's not the case here. It's actually quite nice. You can just sit at home and be happy with yourselves. And I'm probably a bit too much of a fierce judgment, but that was also a joke. A terrible sense of humour, very dry sense of humour. Okay, so we've got our little line coming across there on the top, and what it does is it wobbles down, goes straight, it wobbles down, and then goes behind our characters at the back here. Alright, so we've got that horizontal line going across the top of the mouth, and then it drops down, and then drops down less until eventually it is just going in the back there. Okay, so there should be now the ability to say, well, how can we create that to be more of a mountain and this more flat area in the front here? Because if you've stopped on this bridge perhaps and you're looking downstream, got a flat tile, this is where you're having a picnic, how do I create a sense of depth in the background? It's usually by being able to layer things there. And so even though we've got that in the background, what we want to do is bring a last little line right in the back here, very lightly as the last line, because that might be another distant hill right in the background. We are above halfway, we're in about the 5/8 or 6/8 there. So it's not halfway, because halfway tends to cut the composition in half. But let's now create a little bit more of detail in this part here. In this lovely crocodile head shape here, we've got horizontal lines Right, let's get a horizontal striation coming through there, some type of sedimentary rock that is working. And you can scribble backwards and forwards, coming to the edge there, and then again undercut it, and get it back horizontally. Alright, this is the theory they were disputing on the Egyptian peninsula the other day, saying how is it that there are vertical striations of weathering on the Sphinx when there hasn't been, which comes from water erosion. We're just doing horizontals here to start with. For this is our mountain rock range at the back here. Just horizontal lines. Nice little gap there. Okay, you'll notice that the ends aren't really matching up, but that's fine. We just wanted to get them to come right at the front here, and then we get horizontal lines going out. Because what's going to happen there is we're then going to follow the outline, drop down and repeat it down, and what you do is you follow that until it comes down to the bottom here, and you get that wobble over, and it shows the form then coming down into the mountain. Okay, so that will be dripping down, and we get these vertical striations, water weathering that existed, and theory is that they did build the Sphinx in 2500 BC, but then the vertical striations show that there's water weathering. The last time there was water weathering in the Egyptian peninsula was in 11,500 BC, so there's a little bit of a thing. Now that our art classes are online, you can join them on Microsoft Teams if you are part of Maritzburg College, and come and join us every morning, 8 until 9, or 9 until 10, 10 to 11. Alright, there we've got some lovely lines going over. Alright, and what we do with that, you get each line to follow and repeat itself. What ends up happening is that you then get these striations to show itself. When we put the ink onto the water and the brush onto it, what it's going to do is we'll create a little bit of sneaky techniques there to give it a little bit more of a sense of striation, and it will bounce out at us in a little bit more of a gleeful way. This shape here in the background, this lovely triangle, don't forget to sip. Usually what happens is there's a terrible activation of the sympathetic nervous system when you're in panic stations and the mouth goes dry and you're looking across at the person's next to you and you go into absolute panic mode. But look what you've created already, and if you think that you are on track and you're like, oh my god, this is amazing, put a little smiley face there to say, you know what, I can actually do this. And you can. Simple, step by step. What we're going to do, this area in the background here, we want to be able to create a sense of form. And now, in order to be able to do that, we have our leading line there, right? To show that it's coming towards us, we're going to do one line that's very close to it, starting from the top centerpiece here. Let's say the second guy along there. Let's make a marker point there. From there, you'll follow the line quite closely and then drop it off. And then as you go again from there, and you're going to leave and start separating and curving down. And watch there again, you're going to curve down even more. So it's going to be like fanning outwards. Till eventually as it comes towards you, it's straight down. And then as it goes across here, it flares out again. So it's like the striation metal sleeves of an umbrella. And this is the top of the umbrella. Those lines will be coming out. And what you get to show then is the shape of that field that has got some wheat. Those of you that are in the agricultural industry, especially heading up towards the watershed, your wheat should have been in about a week ago, I believe. And so these are going to be newly planted, furrowed wheat, which is a great winter crop, especially under center pivot. And what we're going to do now is, as that comes out, you don't want to over-obliterate it, but you do have some ridges that are more pronounced than others because it shows that. There we go, it's come down a little picture of the water having run down there because you get your contours in right. Well, that's fine. That's where you go play in the mud when it's been pouring with rain, dribbling down into the stream here. At this back here, it's going to dribble down into behind these trees. Now, let's give ourselves a little bit of a break. We're literally just going to hatch this in, which is just a scribble. Let's scribble these little line of cauliflowers in the back here. We'll just scribble those in. Alright, so you get that nice dark area. And you scribble those in. Nice and easy. And then at the top here as well, we're going to scribble in the bottom of these. Let me give you a second to finish that. Scribbling in those. Yeah, thank you very much to the comments from the Americans and our British friends who are sipping on some wine. We're actually very proud of being teetotalers here in the African continent. We are going to go from the base and we are flicking upwards. That's an absolute lie. It would be really nice to enjoy some sip and sketch with a glass of wine, which has produced some of the best wine in our country, and that is distributed worldwide actually. The South African Pinotage and Cab Sauv. A wonderful history of winemakers in this country. So what we're doing is we've got almost the reverse umbrella. So the umbrella's at the bottom and you've got this flicking up. Because we've got light coming from the top, we're going to create the light underneath that hedge there. But I do believe that they are going to reopen the sale of wine products and beer products in the near future, which is going to be very good for the economy again and get people back on their feet. Okay, so this little space at the bottom here also, what we might find is you can do little lines that are horizontal here. They are horizontally just curving downwards. So these ones have come down in this direction. These ones are going to come from the right hand side and flick in there. Okay, we are into the 25 minutes and we are going to run out of time here. So what we want to do is create this river section, and if you were with us last week, what we had was the way the river came down to the water, the ground came down to the water, is that you have these little channels that drop down on either side. Wherever you get your little zigzag, you can run that little zigzag up, and what that will create is just a little, it gives us a bit more of a descriptive topography or a structure, a little bit of relief that goes down towards that area. And then from there, this really gets quite exciting, is that you can start sculpting the earth yourself, is that we've got the water's edge is flicked up using the pen, touches the bottom and then you just flick up and you can go mad. You can even take the person's artwork next to yours and swap over and you can just flick up here, flick. If you don't want to flick, you can just scribble. Just scribble up. As long as your mark making is going in a, generally speaking, a vertical direction, because these are reeds that are on the right hand side here and the left hand side. Your vertical mark making should be bigger in the foreground on the right and left hand side here. If you want to take the time, you can put it down and you just flick upwards. Flick up, nice long flicks in the foreground, and as you move towards the background there, they get smaller. And you can flick those up into the sides there, and there. Even you can do that mark. There we go. Flicking up to the side there. Alright, so we're getting this sense of travel that's coming through here. I don't want to give you too much time to do that because you're going to maybe overdo it. You want to just keep it nice and simple, have it running off the page. What we're going to do in the water here is we need to create a horizontal base and run a little mountain over the top of it. So a horizontal base is this little rock that's just peeking out of the water. It comes up, drops down, and comes back to itself. Then behind that, we can do another one. Horizontal base, which goes up and then drops down again. And they're usually near the edge. Little horizontal base, and then you can put horizontal base behind it. Starting behind it, it wobbles up and drops down behind it. And as long as you've got a horizontal base, you can make whatever shape you want, especially in there. And also as it comes off the edge here, little horizontal base. And then from that, you just wanting to do a crosshatch. Alright, make sure you've got a little bit of crosshatch, but leave the top of your rock light. So don't do the whole thing, you just want to leave a little bit of the top of the light so that you do get a sense of form in your objects. So you can have little rocks on either side. And then literally, if you see how fast we want to do this, you just want to have horizontal and then a squiggle and then a shade in. Horizontal, little squiggle, shade in. One behind, horizontal, squiggle, shade in. Horizontal, shade. There we go. There we go. And we do this at school quite often. As I said, it has been a real privilege to be able to work with the boys and staff of Maritzburg College, an extraordinary institution that could do with some help at the moment. You click on that link, there's some boys and that could really do with a hand, and some families that just need a little bit of assistance. We are going to come out of this thing at the end, and we support local, help ourselves out wherever you are, whether it's Burnie, Texas, or just outside of London. We support local, we will get out of this. And so there we go, we're just filling in our little bits of bulbs with little rocks. Okay, obviously you don't want to have huge rocks in the distance because that will cause chaos in your perspective. But there we are. Let's leave it at that for now. We will be able to come in and put in some other little funny details in a bit. But you're wanting to now switch across to the paintbrush. Now the advert I sent out to fellow colleagues at college didn't say that you must bring a brush. Which is why you must now scramble for one, or you can use your finger. Alright, well, we want to dip that into the water, whatever you're using. Okay, and from that point, we are going to now just go over the easy first spot will be this background. There we're going to run over that, leaving space where we did our tree. So we just get that dark area to sort of establish itself in there. We get a little bit, there might be a bit of a glisten coming off of the page as you can see it, but don't go back to the water. You're going to stay with the amount of paint water that you've got on your brush, and we're going to pop up to the top here, and here, this is where you can flick upwards. Alright, I literally want you to just go over the top and fill in that space. Avoid going over these lovely spiky trees. What we're going to go into the top here, and you use the point of the brush and just to flare outwards. Start at the base and flare outwards. Nice shout out to Tracy from Texas, and Heidi, and Al has managed to work back at the duck again. It's opened, which is good news. We're going to run this horizontally here. Alright. And Linda, of course. Oh wow, Linda and Gallery 195. And Trish. Sure. Linda, a real big shout out to you. Huge thank you to your assistance in my exhibition with Gallery 195 in Burnie, Texas in December. Really, all thanks to Linda Mannon, who is a ceramicist and owner of the gallery, part owner of the gallery in Burnie. What we've done is started from the base here, and we've just flicked outwards, and what we're doing there is leaving the light at the bottom here. You can start by having that flare out, but then as you get to the outsides here, just let it flow so that you get a travel from the darker through to the light. And then what we'll do is exactly the same thing again. You want to be able to make sure that you have your tonal variation in everything, from background to foreground, from yes to no, from light to dark. You want to be able to have that sense of depth. And the only way that you can create it with dark, with black and white, is through tonal variation. You either have the white or you don't have the white. Alright, so you want to create as much contrast as you possibly can in order to get it to bounce out and shine. And this is where we start to do that. We want to create a little bit of a gap between that dark area. You notice I haven't gone back to the water yet, but I want to just run my brush, leaving a gap between the bottom of that dark area, and this is important. You want to be able to leave a gap between the bottom of that dark area and where we're drawing now. So the light that you leave is as important as the ink that you're covering over. Alright, you want to keep it nice and simple. Nice and simple, nice light mark making. Okay, so I'm going to go back to the water now, and I'm going to pick up a little bit more. I'm just going to flick it off, and let's see what happens if we go into the back here. The same thing, we want to try and create a light area around this ridge. Alright, so we can start on the left hand side here, horizontally working with our striations. You can just go along, but as you get to this side, make sure you're going to wobble over the top of your ridge. Come in there. And now, the reason I would say you've got 3 or 4 seconds to do that is that you've got to be very careful of obliterating your artwork. Why I say obliterating is that what tends to happen is that you get you want to be able to keep that contrast we've been talking about. So keeping a little bit of a light line in there, because it's creeping up and dropping over, catching the light and then dropping back, and catching the light, dropping back in. And so you want to be able to catch that information. We've gone across, I'm pointing my brush up to the top, so it catches that little bit of darkness. As that light refracts over the horizon, goes a little bit darker, then bounces back to a bit of light there. And then you can run your brush in line with the striations that you've been working with there. Okay, so running that down. Okay, there we go. Alright, so we get this to wanting it to stand up, not going back to the water. We want to be able to just keep a little bit of light, again in between that last ridge and this line at the back here, between our last ridge and the tops of those trees, leaving a little bit of a gap. So we continue to just disappear into that background area. Alright, so you wanting to be able to look, if your gaps are too big here, you can, if you want to, think, you know what, this is all just too dark and it hasn't actually worked out very well for me. You can pick up a little bit of colour down here, a little bit of ink, and then what you can do is you can run into the background and just do a wash over that on the top there. And then again, another little wobble up the top here, and you'll find that you can create a very distant mountain range. You're just picking up a little bit of that ink there, and you're going to run over into the background here. Pick up a little bit of this ink where you've had it nice and strong, where it's been quite pronounced, and you can climb up into the background there. But just make sure you're leaving your light, again, underneath it, and you get that to create a sense of depth. That's if you're feeling that, well, you know what, there actually isn't enough of a sense of depth in this one. Okay, let's move forward quickly into the front here, where we have along the edge of our river. We're going to flick along, and just the very point of the brush is going to come along. Okay, and by doing that, we're just allowing the water to start mixing the ink. But then what we're going to make sure we do is we just also get that flick up to start happening. Alright? You get that flicking to happen. That creates the texture. And as you get to the front, you can really press hard on your brush and get all the bristles. If you've got a brush similar to mine, as you come into the foreground, it gets a little bit more exciting, it can be a bit more brutal. Again, on the other side, we can just trickle it along there, where we're going over our drawings that we did, coming to the front, and then we go and we just flick it up, and just enjoy that process of allowing the brush to flick up. I appreciate that some of you might not have had the water-based pens, and so you will have gotten bored. I apologize. That might be the case, but you can still just trickle along with your pen and continue to add that detail. Alright, and now I'm going to, very watery brush, I'm going to run these lines just up further into this side here. So you'll get that travel out that way. And again on the other side, you're going to run it, and we just do a little quick run sideways, because that allows us to get that sense that it's going sideways and it's going upwards this way. Okay, I don't want to rush you there. So you've got those lines, but all the time we're making sure we're leaving our white gaps, white gaps, white gaps, white gaps, white gaps, so that we get that contrast. And these sneaky little guys, the rocks, where you've got rocks, you just want to do a single horizontal line on them of water, because it's again just a suggestion. We're going to trickle over those so that we get them, and they can be just little suggestions in that water. But how do we make water look like water? We need to make sure that they are showing that this water is on a flat surface, and the best way to do that is usually to get a reflection. So you'll have just a straight vertical that will come off your object, straight vertical line. Alright? Straight. I made this mistake last week, going sideways. We want to have a vertical line coming off that. Alright, and occasionally on the sides just get a straight vertical. Randomly again, you just have nice little vertical lines coming off. Tiny little vertical lines in the distance. That would show alright, and then you can also then just do 1, 2 horizontals, because the horizontal shows that it's reflecting on the surface of the water. Okay, so you get this last stage. So you're wanting to do a lovely horizontal coming off these peaks as you come into, as they drift into the water there. Flat horizontal with water from the brush. And obviously the gaps between your lines get bigger as you come further forward. But again, make sure that you're not obliterating things. You want to be able to have that light. And as I said, you get some of these verticals to drop straight down from your rocks, so that you get that to be a thing, a sense of subject matter. Mine is very light in the foreground here. What we haven't done are these little trees. That's actually quite good fun, because you're wanting to be able to identify this is going to be a nice dark center, but the way that we treat those is we're just going to stipple it. By stippling it, we create a variety again, like little dots. It's got its texture, but by putting dots on it, we tend to get this lovely thing going here, a little dot. Alright. Now I'm hoping that we've got a very amazing artist in the Midlands, M, who might be working with her mum Alex from Cranford. I really hope she is. She's an amazing little artist. I also had the privilege of working with the other day. It's nice to have Alex join us. By having these little dots, what that does is it creates a little bit of a different texture. Alright, so you get that dotty texture against some flattish type work going in the background there. Okay, and now what we'll find is that we've got a lovely solid base working in here, and the thing is, what we could do is afford to have a little bit more depth happening in the foreground. We've just snuck over our mark of 30 minutes, but what I'm going to do is take my pen back, and I'm going to look for a little bit more strength in this foreground area here. And now and just wobble over the edge of my frame to give it a little bit of a sense of travel that's going beyond our border. Alright, because what we can do with that is it just creates a little bit more of an excitement or a sense of depth to the thing. And again, I'm going to travel over the top of that with this brush to get that sorted out there. Alright, and again, so there we go. You've got a very simple step-by-step process of creating a beautiful artwork. Let's finish up this one on the right hand side here as well. These are going horizontally. Where these pens work, really it's quite fun to be able to work with them. Again, as I said, it's part of fine liner. relatively inexpensive as decent pens go, about 13 Rand, between 13 and 16 Rand. And then your brush also can range from 2 Rand to 20 Rand. And we get this sense of lovely depth that hopefully you have achieved. If you have achieved something similar, please, please, please post it and have a look at the process from beginning to end. What I love to do sometimes is take photos along the way so that you can see how it's progressed. But don't forget from last time how it is just a step-by-step process. And if this is your first time, you can see how easy it is. We're not working from a reference, but generally speaking, this is a KwaZulu-Natal scene where the river's just upstream from us here. It wanders through these lovely little valleys, some brown and rainbow trout in there, not rainbow, but you get to be a part of this. You know, wait for this lockdown to end and for us to be able to get back there, as I'm sure everybody is excited to do. So, well done for being a part of that. I'm going to call the clock on you and say, put your brush down, pens down, because you run the risk of obliterating your work and just getting it to be more and more and more, and essentially less is more. So just the simple mark that you made is enough, and that is as long as it might have taken to change 2 punches or have an afternoon picnic. You will be able to create a beautiful scene. If you were with us last week, that's 2 now. We're going to do 1 next week, so you have 3 to put in a row above the mantle. Or if you really are struggling, you need to have 3 spare bathrooms, or just put all 3 in behind the door in the spare bathroom. And if you didn't join us last week, just switch across to our YouTube channel. It's the same as Brent.Artist, and you will see we've uploaded the one from last week, which is sort of similar. We've got a bit of a landscapey scene, so they go quite nicely together. They are loosening up on our stationary shots, so do yourself a favour, and you will always be able to use it, this little pilot fine liner or a G2. Does exactly the same thing. And so now what I want you to do, if you are keen to share your pictures, just private message me then. And I wanted to put all those images together for an album so that we can advertise it for our next show to prove that it is possible and it is not too terrifying. Alright, we're going to take a 2-minute break to allow yourself to just relax, and in about 2 minutes time I'm going to walk through the gallery of work that is also part of stuff that is on sale or rental or for commission, to try and get some funds going for our #lockdown relief campaign. Alright, so thank you.